Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So the Mavic 3 has been out for about 30 days now, and I've had a good amount of time to fly it, test it out, figure out what its strengths are and what its weaknesses are. But I must say, after flying it for the last 30 days, this is really one impressive piece of tech. It's an expensive drone, there's no denying that. This drone actually has some pretty incredible specs: a new Micro Four Third camera, 46 minutes of flight time, upgraded optical avoidance. It flies a little faster, and of course, if you get the Cine version, you can now record in ProRes, and it also comes with a built-in 1TB SSD. Now for myself, I opted to go with the Fly More combo, and I purchased the RC Pro separately because I did want that all in one unit with a nice bright screen. However, with that said, with all newly released tech, it does have some problems, and we're going to talk about that here later on in the video. Myself, I've experienced some problems, and of course, if you're watching YouTube videos, you've seen that there's a lot of problems that people have experienced. The big topic, however, that a lot of people talk about, and I'm not going to go too much into detail whether I think it's right or wrong, is the fact that this drone is only half ready to go. And with some of the problems that people are having, it appears that DJI rushed it out the door. Most likely they wanted to cash in on those holiday sales, but I for one think that they should have waited. After all, this is an expensive drone. If you're spending $3, $4, $5, here in Canada, $7,000 on a drone, it should be ready to go right out of the box. Now, I'm not too terribly concerned about that yet because I know DJI is going to fix the problems. That's one thing DJI is good at, is fixing problems via firmware updates, pumping out new features. So by January, all this should be sorted out. If you're watching this video and you're not quite aware, some of the missing features of this drone are active track, point of interest, spotlight. There's no quick shots, there's no master shots, there's no panoramas, there's no HDR for both photos or videos, and DJI has stated all these features will be available in January. Hopefully that doesn't get delayed, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So as disappointing as it is that this drone has some problems and is only half ready to go, there's a lot of good about this drone that kind of makes up for it. As mentioned, this drone has a Micro Four Third sensor, which when you really break it down, that's pretty incredible for a small consumer drone. The new Evolve drone that came out earlier this fall has a Micro Four Third camera on it as well, but it is considerably more money and it's not foldable. So for DJI to be able to pack a camera like this in a small drone that's foldable and portable is pretty impressive. And if you're a person who films at night or sunset, sunrise, any kind of low light conditions, you're going to be really impressed with the results. Here's a shot here I filmed at an early sunrise, and this is all just shot in auto. I didn't do any grading to it. It's just straight off the camera, and the colors that it can pick up and the dynamic range is just incredible. If I was trying to film that on something like the Mini 2 or a drone with a smaller sensor, it would still pick up the colors decently, but a lot of it would be washed out. It just wouldn't be able to capture the same amount of color and detail. Also, just the simple fact that this is a DJI drone, it flies beautifully, the control is precise, and it just does what it's supposed to do. DJI just really knows how to build a drone, right from the fit and finish, the way it flies, the precision control, the intelligent safety features. There's a reason why DJI is the leader when it comes to consumer drones, and that's just because they know what they're doing and they build a good product. The flight time has been upgraded to 46 minutes, so in that aspect, a lot of people could get away with only 2 batteries. It's not like the early days where you had to have multiple batteries just to be able to capture what you want to capture. 46 minutes of flight time. Of course, you're not going to get that in real world scenarios, but I've already gotten close to 40 minutes. Now, I did purchase a 4th battery. I had 3 in the Fly More combo, but I just like to make sure I have enough battery power. And really, anytime I've gone out flying, I've only used 2. As mentioned, we also have new upgraded obstacle avoidance, and that's kind of a mixed issue for me. It actually works quite well. I've put it through quite a few tests, but the obstacle avoidance I think needs a little bit of work, and we'll talk about that when we get into more some of the negative aspects. Now, I really like what they've done with the charger this year. This new minimal charger just is brilliant. Definitely a lot more compact than what we've seen in the past. So if you're traveling with your Mavic 3, it's going to make it a little bit more streamlined for packing. And I even like the new charging hub that they've designed this year. Some of the other charging hubs were a little fiddly to get the batteries in, but this one works quite well. The batteries just plug in with no messing around, so I really like the design. And I hope going forward, any new drones that DJI releases in the future adopts this new design. Now, one thing that is different with the Mavic 3 is you don't plug the battery directly into the charger. That's how we've seen it most of the time in the past, except for the mini series. You basically plug the charger directly into the drone, and that's how you charge the battery. And for the most part, that's a good idea. The only thing I don't like about it, and it doesn't really affect me because I have the Fly More combo and I have the charging hub, But if you're a person who just purchased the base kit and you perhaps purchased one spare battery, in the past if you had a dead battery you could charge it up while you're flying the drone, but now with this new design, because it has to be plugged into the drone, you're not able to charge a battery while you're flying. So that is one negative aspect to this charger. Now another hot topic about the Mavic 3 is this new gimbal guard that they include. Some people love it, some people hate it. I for one actually really like it. I think it's functional, and for the most part it's easy to use. It offers more protection for the gimbal than those plastic ones that they've included in the past. Those things could get knocked off pretty easy. Goes on super easy. And it keeps your propellers nicely tucked in. Now those propellers can flop out, but for the most part it just makes putting it into a bag nice and easy. You don't have to worry about these propellers getting caught up on the interior of the bag. It is a little on the ugly side at the front there, but really it's just a cosmetic thing. Now another nice feature that they included this year is that the gimbal locks once you power it off. Again, that makes it easier to put gimbal guards on. But as you can see here, mine's already come loose, and that's kind of a problem with a lot of people. If it gets knocked a certain way, and that actually just came loose from me taking off the gimbal cover. The problem with that though is, as you can see here, if it comes loose while it's being transported around, that camera is jostling around inside that gimbal cover, and it will knock against the arms there. It's not a big issue, I don't think it will damage anything, but as you can see it does start to put some scuff marks on the gimbal. So all in all, it's a pretty solid drone, and I am fairly happy with the purchase. As mentioned, it would have been nice if it was complete. So with the good out of the way, let's talk about some of the negative problems that I've been experiencing and things that I wish they had done differently. The first problem I noticed right away from the first day I flew it is that it takes a long time to acquire GPS. My Air 2S, even my Mini 2, I can have full GPS connectivity within 30 seconds. But with my Mavic 3, sometimes I'm waiting 3 to 5 minutes just to get 12 satellites so it can set the home point properly. And that's been a problem at every location I fly. I don't know if it's related to the problem, but I noticed that if you take a look at the specs, they've changed the GPS systems that it connects to. GLONASS was one that most drones connected to, but now they've replaced it with this other one. So I don't know if that's part of the problem. The other thing to do with GPS is I noticed my drone drifts around a little bit. It's very minor. But even when I was doing my hover test, I kept having to move the drone back into the camera view because after about 5 minutes when I was hovering, it'd be about 6 to 8 feet away from where it started from. And honestly, I've never had that with any other DJI drone. I could have a drone hovering in the exact same spot for 20 minutes and it wouldn't even move half a foot. Some other YouTubers are reporting problems with horizon tilt, and some of them were actually pretty severe. I haven't experienced that with mine. Now, I did get a horizon tilt a little bit, very mild, a few times when I was flying, but it corrected itself very quickly. And to be honest, I've had that with almost every DJI drone I've owned. Sometimes they just aren't quite 100% level, but as you start flying around, they usually correct themselves. However, one problem I am having with it, and again, it's very mild, it doesn't do it very often, but every once in a while when you're flying, the camera will jump. And it's usually when you're doing a complex maneuver. If you're flying sideways, maybe you're doing a yaw, or you're flying and you slow down, the camera will sometimes just kind of twitch a little bit. Most of the time it's been when I'm in sport mode, but I have actually had it happen once when I was in normal mode. It's very minor and it's not anything I'm really concerned about. And it's not just me, there's many other people on YouTube mentioning that little camera jump. And again, I'm pretty confident DJI will get that worked out fairly quickly. Now, another thing I'm not too fond of this year that they implemented with the Mavic 3 is the new advanced return to home. In the past, we've always had smart return to home, which basically you would preset the return to home height in the settings. If you became disconnected, or you got a low battery return to home, or you've manually initiated a return to home, the drone would go up to that predetermined height, come straight across to you, and then come straight down and land. With advanced return to home, if you're flying out, say, at 50 meters, it's going to come home to you at that 50 meters. On the way home, it's also going to descend and avoid obstacles. Now, in theory, it's a great idea. It's more efficient. It's going to save some of your battery, which in turn will allow you to fly longer. But the problem I have with it is that not every location you're flying at is suitable for that. If you're flying in a field with hydro wires or some trees that don't have any foliage on them, as we've seen already on YouTube, the optical avoidance can't pick up some of those really fine details. As the drone's flying along, it's supposed to see a tree, move around it, and continue coming home. And I think for the most part it will work, but I just don't trust it enough to have my $5,000 drone coming home and trying to avoid things that it could potentially hit. Not to mention if you're flying in a park and there's people around, I don't want the drone coming home in at a low altitude above people. Now, that advanced return to home is only initiated if the lighting environment is suitable. If it can't make use of its optical avoidance, if it's too dark, it will disable the advanced return to home. and just initiate a normal smart return to home. But I would like to see DJI add an option in the settings in the safety menu where you can disable the advanced return to home altogether. That way, if you're in an environment where you don't think it's suitable, you can manually turn it off. As mentioned, the obstacle avoidance on this drone works quite well. It's not perfect, no obstacle avoidance is. It has a hard time seeing small branches, but I do believe it needs a little bit of work. I find it's a little over aggressive than what it needs to be, especially if you're using APAS. Now, I don't always have obstacle avoidance on, but if I'm flying in close proximity to something, I will sometimes turn it on just to make sure I don't hit anything. And that's kind of where the problem is. With PAS drones, when you're using APAS, it's going to slowly ease around it, but with the Mavic 3, it really jumps around, and it can be pretty aggressive sometimes. For example, if you're hovering like 10 feet in front of you and you push the stick down to lower it a bit, it could inadvertently go up, it can go sideways, and it can jump around about anywhere from 2 to 3 feet. You'll hear the motors rev up and it just moves very quickly. And that can become a problem if you're flying in tight quarters around trees, again, that don't have any foliage on them. It could inadvertently jump right into a tree branch. So I think it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit. Another little gripe I have is that they chose to use the Fly app with the Mavic 3. Now don't get me wrong, I actually really like the Fly app. I actually prefer it over the Go 4 app. But I think for a drone of this caliber, their flagship high-end consumer drone, it needed to have a more pro app. I think ideally they should have released maybe a new Fly app called maybe perhaps the Fly app Pro that had a lot of these advanced features and customization. Now again, I'm confident that we're going to see some big changes to it over the coming months. After all, if you look at the original Fly app when the Mini was released, it's come a long way since then. A lot of new features and advanced features have been added. So with the Mavic 3 out now, I'm pretty sure we will see some advanced features added. Another little annoyance is the controller that they're including with the base package and the Fly More combo. This is the same controller that comes with the $400 Mini 2. And don't get me wrong, I actually really like this controller. It's super comfortable to hold, but I like it for the Mini 2 and I like it for the Air 2S. When I'm spending this much on a drone, I would like to have a controller that is equally as premium. And just some minor changes to it. A little bit of telemetry on the front there, some customizable buttons on the back, an extra scroll wheel for changing settings or adjusting your zoom level, and at bare minimum, at least have it match the drone. The other alternative is the RC Pro, which you can purchase separately, but this has a pretty hefty price tag on it as well, so it's not really something that a lot of people want to spend money on. Now, I mentioned this in another video that I uploaded a couple weeks ago, is that I think DJI should have been a little bit more flexible when it comes to the packages that they're offering. When a drone gets to be this much money, some people may not be able to afford to purchase it all at once. And what I mean by that is somebody might be able to only afford the base package for now, but they may want the Fly More combo later on down the road. I think it would have been a better idea to release the Fly More combo as a separate package, similar to what they did with the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 2 Zoom. You could buy the base package and then upgrade to the Fly More combo down the road and still get a bit of a discount. Better yet, they should have never included that bag in the package. That bag retails in the DJI store for about $300. So when it comes to the Fly More combo, that's a big part of the price. Some people like it, some people don't. Not everybody's going to use it, so they shouldn't have forced people to buy that bag. If anything, have it as an add-on when you're checking out. If you purchase it with the drone, give them a bit of a discount. That way they're still getting a deal on it, but don't force people to buy it who aren't going to use it. Some people just want a bit of a discount for extra batteries, extra propellers, and the charging hub. And of course, the big complaint is that a lot of people wanted the RC Pro bundled in with the Fly More combo. Now that is something that DJI has changed course on. They made an announcement in their forum that they are going to be having a package, Fly More combo package that has the RC Pro. I do believe it said that in mainland China it's going to be available around December 20th and in the rest of the world sometime in January. What's even more surprising is that they stated that they're going to offer some sort of compensation to people who bought the Fly More combo and then had to upgrade to the RC Pro. It's probably going to come in the form of DJI coupons or even store credit. I'm not sure how that's going to work or what kind of compensation you're going to get. Now lastly, before I go here, I just kind of want to talk about that hybrid zoom camera that's included with the Hasselblad camera. Now this is 100% opinion based. It's nothing to do with the performance of the camera, but myself, I could have done without that camera. I really don't have a lot of use for it. It's a 7x fixed optical zoom, but just when using that camera, the quality is not that great. Even at the fixed 7x zoom, although it is nice, you can get a little creative with it, do some parallax style videos, or perhaps even a dolly zoom. If you take a look at this video here, it's filmed in the 7x fixed optical zoom, and the quality still isn't that great. It's a little bit grainy, a little bit blurry. I would just never use it to capture anything that's important. Of course, it is kind of fun to play around with, and a lot of people really do like it. After a few times playing with it, it's something I'll never use. I would have preferred just to have the Hasselblad camera, and if anything, 8x digital zoom like they did with the Mavic Air. Better yet, give me a true optical zoom camera, and maybe that's something I would actually make use of. Again, like I said, that is just opinion based, but I think as a whole that just kind of cheapens the whole Hasselblad camera, makes it feel a little amateurish. But I must say DJI did an incredible job at making that image stable, especially when zoomed in at 28 times. Anytime you're zoomed in that far, any little movement of the drone or the camera is going to be greatly exaggerated. But as you can see in this example, we zoom in 2 times, 4 times, 7 times, 14 times, and then all the way to 28 times, and that image is still pretty stable. So the DJI engineers did a pretty incredible job with that. Well, that's basically my review of the Mavic 3. Now, it's hard to really fully review this drone because a lot of the features, as mentioned, are not there yet. So of course, we will be taking a look at it when some of these features are available. We'll be testing them out, making some videos about them. And hopefully I didn't scare you off of this drone by bringing up some of the problems. If you are thinking of purchasing it, not to worry, DJI will get all these little issues fixed. That's one thing DJI is good for, is getting firmware updates out to fix problems. And of course, once we have the full suite of features, that's going to make this drone completely different. And I have a feeling that there's going to be other features that they haven't even announced yet. Because really, when you take a look at it, there's nothing really new with this drone when it comes to intelligent flight features that we haven't already seen. So I have a feeling DJI does have some surprises up its sleeve, and we'll see them sometime in the new year. All in all, this is one impressive piece of tech, as mentioned. A small foldable drone like this with a Micro Four Thirds sensor. That is something that 5 years ago you couldn't even really dream about. You know, it just didn't seem like a reality, but here it is here in front of us. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.